What a beautiful early March day it is here at Garden Crossings. Today, I stepped out into the butterfly house for the first time in months just to kind of see what was going on in here and to see if there was any life. And wow, I was absolutely surprised with all the life that is going on here in the butterfly house. Hi, I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings, and let's just take a look here at some of the plants that are starting to emerge. One nice thing with being in this greenhouse garden atmosphere is obviously a greenhouse makes everything just a little bit warmer, and being in this warmer environment and having all the plants planted directly into the ground, it kind of wakes them up earlier in the spring. So it's really nice once the garden center opens in April to have plants that are lushed out, full and lush and flowering, but it's happening a lot earlier this year. So let's just go ahead and take a look at some of the things that are here in the butterfly house, and I'll kind of try to tell you some of the plans that we have for what we're going to be doing with this space in the next month or two. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. So we've got butterfly bush in here. These are the Pugster series. This is Pugster Blue actually, and wow, they're already filled out so nice, and we're seeing like the little buds here starting on these plants. So these are going to be blooming a lot earlier than what they did in the past few years, and partially that's because it's been just so incredibly warm here in Michigan. The weather has been just really out of the norm for the winter this year. When we went through last year, we removed all the annuals, trimmed back all the perennials, except for some of the annual milkweed. So we left a lot of the annual milkweed in hopes for that we would be able to overwinter them here in this warmer environment. It's not looking too promising, but we'll see. So we're seeing a lot of just tall, dead sticks. We'll give it another month or so to see if there's any new growth coming, but this is a lot of what we're seeing. Although we'll move over here to the next one, and although there's a lot of dead here on the top, as we look closer to the base of the plant, I am starting to see that new growth is emerging. And this is just an annual red Asclepias. So that is encouraging and promising, because the sooner I can get the milkweed or Asclepias here in this greenhouse, the sooner we can bring the monarch caterpillars into this space. Beautiful sedum are coming up nicely, nice rounded balls. That is the Rockin' Round Pride and Joy sedum. So those are coming up really nicely. As I walk down the path, we put fresh bark in here last fall, and the reason why we bark it in the fall is because after we put the bark in, we spray all the bark. If there's any bugs or anything, we don't want bugs in this environment, so we spray it to kill off any bugs that might be living in the mulch. So it's done really well. I'm not seeing a lot of bug activity right now, so I think we probably got a pretty good kill on any bad bugs that we don't want in this space. Here we've got a nice patch of phlox coming up. This is the luminary opalescent phlox, and as you look here in the garden, you can kind of tell that it's a little bit more of a spreading type phlox. And I think this is one thing that's kind of important with doing tours in the gardens as they're beginning to wake up. You can see what the plants look like when they're in their infancy or young early stages of coming up in the spring. So you can see it's a little bit of a spreader. It's been in here for about, I think this is our 4th year in the butterfly house. So just to kind of give you an idea, one plant after 4 years, that's kind of what it's looking like. Continuing to walk through, down here on this side of the path, we have some aster, and that is just a white aster, and you can see 2 aster. Kind of starts to spread a little bit over time. Continuing along, some more sedum. This is the Rock and Grow Coral Jade sedum, and you can see there's flower buds on there already. So we'll probably let it go to flower and then trim it back. That way it's actually blooming in the fall when it's supposed to. So when we plant up this space, we want to make sure that we have things that are blooming early and blooming late, because the butterflies will be in here all season into the fall. So we need to make sure we're having the proper nectar sources for the butterflies. Continuing along, we've got some echinacea just starting to come up there, some purple emperor. You can see the coneflower, it's staying really nice and tidy into its space. Also, we've got some delphinium in here. These are the what is this one called? Purple Passion. So with delphinium, because they do get so tall, and they get especially tall in the greenhouse because it's super warm in here, we put these tomato cages and let them grow up and through the tomato cages. That way the plants stay more secure and stable and don't get all tippy and floppy in the garden. We got Nepeta starting to come up. I'll show you some of that as we walk down the main aisleway. Some salvia. We have a spice bush here. This is for if we find any spice bush swallowtails that's just starting to leaf out just a little bit. So it's always so pretty to watch the plants as they're just starting to put on new growth for the season. Here are the Nepeta we were talking about here along the border. This is the cat's pajamas, which is a very low growing Nepeta. Only, I think maybe 10 to 12 inches tall or so. Keeps a nice mounding habit, stays where it's supposed to be. Here's another annual milkweed that is starting to come back. So that's really encouraging for us to see that. In the back corner, we have 3 butterfly bush. Those are part of the Miss series. Miss Pearl, Miss Violet, and Miss Molly. That way we get kind of that red, white, and blue look when they are blooming. Those plants typically get about 4 foot tall at maturity, but being here in this hot environment in the greenhouse, they will get up to 6 foot tall. So we do have to kind of keep trimming at them to keep them to a nice size so they don't hit the top of the greenhouse here. We also are planning for black swallowtails. We were hoping to bring some in last year. We had a few we were able to introduce, not enough really to create a population though. So we did plant plants though in hopes of having black swallowtails. So over here we have a fennel plant that was planted last year, and it's come back beautifully. So that was kind of a nice surprise that we were able to overwinter that. So as soon as we start seeing some black swallowtail caterpillars, we'll have a nice amount of food for them to get eating off of. Allium millennium, or maybe it's serendipity, I don't know. Yeah, Allium millennium is coming up nicely here too. And I think that goes to show too the habit of the Allium millennium. Serendipity would be similar to what they look like after about 3 or 4 years in the garden. The clumps continue to get larger every year, but you can see that those clumps are staying right where they were originally planted in the garden space. So we have little signs in the butterfly house just to kind of for educational purposes for people. Here is a sign that's showing the life cycle of the monarch butterfly from the egg to the caterpillar and the different stages, chrysalis, and then to the butterfly. So this space here is meant for, there's a hose, is meant not only for just beauty, it's also meant for educational purposes. Usually we get the butterflies or the caterpillars in beginning of May or so, and they kind of start doing their thing. Usually it's about July though before the butterfly house is really booming with butterflies. But prior to that, we definitely do have butterfly action. It's just once we get to that midsummer time is when it's just exploded with so much beautiful life. Some more butterfly bush in here doing well. The Pugster series, these here are Pugster Blue, Pugster Amethyst, and Pugster Pink, just to kind of add some more variety here into this garden space, different colors and such. Some more sedum, keeping its space and its nice tight habit there. That's the Rockin' Round Pride and Joy. Then we get into Monarda or bee balm, which Monarda is known to kind of spread in the garden. And this has been in here also for about 4 years or so. And I think there was actually 3 plants that were originally planted. And you can see how it's kind of spreading throughout in the garden. In the center here, we've got some beautiful corbels. These are the Mahogany Monster Corbels, and they are doing really nice. The white you're seeing on them, that's some spray that was sprayed on them. That's nothing wrong with that plant. But yeah, those are just starting to kind of leaf back out again and are looking beautiful. And behind it, we've got the Spirea. I think that one is candy corn, which has amazing foliage in the spring and really all summer long. Beautiful foliage with gorgeous pink flowers. Again, we've got more Monarda, more milkweed, which this is not coming back. So these are actually, we took a pot and a pot. So we buried a pot in the ground, planted into another pot, and set that pot into the ground there. That way it can be easily removed as the foliage was gone from the caterpillars eating, we could put some new plants in that spot. Caryopteris here, Beyond Midnight, great for fall color. So that's why we've got that in there, because again, we want to have color in this garden year round. Well, I say year round, spring through fall. Continuing our way through, and where we're going to actually end today is with a gorgeous lilac. I mean, nothing says spring more than the scent of lilacs. So let's take a look here at this beautiful lilac. This is the Lilac Centera Double Blue, and oh my gosh, it just smells heavenly. Like, we thought we should probably cut a few of those to bring them into the office. So let me get you some details on this lilac, since this is just the most beautiful thing right now that is blooming here in this garden. As I mentioned, this is the Centera Double Blue. It's hardy in zones 2 to 7, so a very hardy, especially in the cold climate, type of lilac. It gets 6 to 8 foot tall and can get 8 to 10 foot wide. So we do trim it here after it's done blooming, just to keep it the perfect size here in the butterfly house. It does like to be grown in a full sun location, and it blooms off of the previous season's growth. So that's why when it's done blooming, that's when we go ahead and give it a trim if a trim is needed. It attracts butterflies and hummingbirds, and that is why it is here in our butterfly house. Also, if deer are an issue for you, you don't need to worry about deer, because this is a deer-resistant shrub. It's a perfect shrub if you're looking for beautiful cut flowers that you can bring into the home. The fragrance is just, oh, it's so breathtaking. So if you are looking for a lilac to add into your garden and really are loving like that old-fashioned lilac look, Centera Double Blue is just an amazing lilac you may want to add to your collection. Thanks for watching today. If you have any questions of anything that's going on here in the butterfly house, it's just, like I said, just starting to wake up, and we were very surprised by seeing this lilac in bloom and just how much growth and how much life there is already on the plants in here. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings.